Hello humans, welcome to my world of stuff. My name is Paul Mount. Happy Christmas. It's Christmas Eve and I'm in the cinema room with my little furry friend Rosie, and I'm doing a physical media update. I haven't done one for a while. It's been a couple of months maybe since I've done a physical media update. There's a few new bits and pieces to show you. Not Christmas presents, just things I've picked up in online sales and eBay. Of course, we've had Black Friday, we've had various sales at various retailers, and that's where you can pick up some bargains. And that's where I do pick up my bargains. I've got quite a few new bits and pieces to show you at the moment. I do apologise for the cat constantly interrupting me. She's discovered the cinema room now. She hurtles up here as soon as I make my way here and smashes her way through the door and demands attention, but that's what cats do. Anyway, right, let's make a start with Eagle Moss. Now, for those of you who collect the Eagle Moss Doctor Who figurines, we've had a new delivery in the last week or so. The latest two figures have arrived, and I'm pretty pleased with both of them. One's a classic series figure, and one's from the more recent incarnation of Doctor Who. The first one that we have is the BluRays. This was the... Yes. That's hopeless, isn't it? Go on. This is the BluRays, as featured in the not very good 1985 Colin Baker story Time Lash. You can see the detail. He's a sort of vaguely reptilian sort of mutant type creature. I can't remember what he's supposed to be exactly in the story now. I haven't seen it for years and I'm not minded to watch it. But it's a lovely little figure, really nicely sculpted. He's in his sort of throne or mobile chair thing. Not one of the great characters, but a pretty, quite a decent figure. And Eagle Moss always do well, of course, with the Daleks. And here we have the reconnaissance security drone Dalek from this year's most recent New Year's special, Revolution of the Daleks. This is based, of course, on the design that featured the previous year in Resolution, where, if you remember from the story, the Daleks were able to create a new range of security drone robots which threatened the security of the Earth. Lovely little figure. I mean, a lot of people weren't fussed with this new design, but I think this is, unlike the Paradigm Daleks that appeared in 2010 in Matt Smith's series, these retain that classic sort of pepperpot silhouette of the Daleks, slightly streamlined. But they're gone now. They were only in a couple of stories. A lot of fans made a fuss about redesigning a classic, and they didn't redesign a classic. They just refined it for a couple of stories, and I think they look really good. Of course, one of the things about this, that because of they were slightly narrower, and like the normal Dalek props, there was no operator. They were operated by remote control. But as I said, they just appeared in a couple of stories. It's a nice figure. It's nicely detailed. It's the ones you may remember. I think they were blue, and then when they were sort of activated and became sort of Dalek, they turned red. Yeah, very pleased with those. The latest from Eagle Moss. There's two more due next month. I think it's the Raston Warrior robot from the Five Doctors. And from the same story, a Cyberman under attack, I think with a spear through its chest from the same story. So that's, that's true. They'll probably due sometime in January now. There's other physical media. Then there's a few comic booky things, which I'll show you. And I'm going to round off with one very special comic booky thing, which came today, I'm very pleased to say. A few bits and pieces that I picked up then online. Not a massive amount, but some archive stuff and some more recent stuff. And I can't now remember what exact deals. There were things like 2 for 50, 2 for 20 and 2 for 30 on 4Ks and things. So I'm just sort of lumping these together as and when as they appear in front of me. Sorry, a bit of a ramble there. Right, the first one I picked up is Interstellar from Christopher Nolan. This is from 2014. This is his huge space opera starring Matthew McConaughey, Anne Hathaway, Jessica Chastain, Michael Caine in a couple of scenes. I think this was Christopher Nolan's attempt to do 2001, to sort of do something very serious and pretentious about space, but it didn't really come off in that way. But it's a good film. I've only watched it once. I saw it in the cinema, and I may well have it on Blu-ray, but this is certainly one I'm going to be sitting and watching on 4K at some point quite soon, I would imagine. I definitely picked the next two up in a 2 for 30 quid sale on HMV. One of my films of the year, A Quiet Place Part 2, starring, of course, Emily Blunt, Cillian Murphy, and the kids from the first film. A fantastic and well justified sequel to a classic. When I heard they were doing a classic to the original Quiet Place, of course, like most people, I was not sure about that. But this, because it's sort of written and directed by John Krasinski, who of course was in the first film and appears in this one at the beginning. It had that sort of authenticity to it, because it wasn't just a cheap knockoff. It sort of moved the story forward. There is no word yet on a part 3. Of course, if you've seen it, it sets itself up very nicely for a part 3. I'm sure we'll get it. I think there's some talk of a spin-off set in the same universe. I don't really want that. I just want a perfect trilogy. I would imagine this will be announced at some point, because this was a significant hit. I also picked up at the same time, at this same 2 for 30 sale, Nobody, starring Bob Odenkirk. One of my early reviews on this channel was for this film. I haven't seen it since. I'm really looking forward to watching this again. It's good John Wick type action revenge thriller with Bob Odenkirk as a man with a secret. Great fun film. Really crazy action, and yeah, another one of the really good films that came out earlier this year. It did quite well, but I think, you know, in different times it might have done even better. Of course, I picked up this. This came last Saturday, I think. The latest Bond, No Time to Die, on a nice steelbook edition, with a nice picture of Bond in the Aston Martin, bullet holes and so on. I have opened it earlier on, but I will open it now if I can. It is basically your... Sorry, Rosie is misbehaving. Yeah, it's a lovely little set. There's been some controversy about this film. I understand not everybody has taken to it. There it is. You see the sort of interior image there, and the 4K disc and the Blu-ray. Yeah, it's people who don't like it really don't like it, and I think they have issues with certain things that happen. I'm still not going to spoil those things that happen now, because I realise that although it's taken like 800 million at the worldwide box office, a lot of people are waiting to see it on streaming services and physical media. It wouldn't be fair to sort of spoil it now. But yeah, a lot of people had certain issues with it. And I think it might be that those people hadn't watched the whole Daniel Craig run of films. And I think if you do that before you see this, I think it gives you a different perspective on it. And I think perhaps it's a mistake to try and reconcile this with all the previous Bonds and try and, you know, make it fit together, because I don't think you could do that now. I think that so much water has flown under the bridge as far as Bond is concerned. It's very hard now to make that Bond seem like all the other Bonds, and to compare and contrast. I think you just have to take Daniel Craig's Bond in his 5 films for what it is, and I think No Time to Die was a bold and daring finale. I'm looking forward to seeing that one again. Yeah, a couple others I picked up. I think I picked these up on the last HMV sale. Don't hate me. It's Howard the Duck on a nice steelbook edition. This is in many ways the first Marvel film. Came out in, what, 1986-ish, I'm thinking it is. Yeah, 1986, yeah. Of course, this is Howard the Duck, character who appeared in the 80s in Marvel Comics. He appeared in The Defenders, then he had his own title, created by Steve Gerber. Basically, it's the story of a duck from another planet, a planet of ducks, who falls through a wormhole, finds himself on modern-day Earth, where he gets involved in all sorts of superhero-type adventures. The film version dispenses with a lot of the sort of satire of the original comic book series, and it's just about a duck on another planet. It's nuts. I mean, I only saw this a couple of years ago at the Starburst Film Festival, 2-3 years ago now, and I just thought it was terrific. I have it on Blu-ray, and I saw the 4K disc, and it's just... funny enough, it does stick to the template of Marvel as we know it today, really, with the sort of the origin, learning about who he is, big CGI creature villain at the end, and I think it stands up very well if you take it in the right frame of mind. I mean, it's not very well thought of. I think it's been slightly rehabilitated over the years, where people have put it in perspective a bit, seen what it is. Of course, it was a massive hit. I mean, it was Howard the Duck over here. It was Howard, a New Breed of Hero, in fact, I think it was called over here. But I think it's a good fun film. I mean, yeah, you question the bit about where he has a possible romantic relationship with Leah Thompson's character. That's a bit sort of, yeah. But, you know, it's sort of, you know, you take it for what it is. But I think Howard the Duck is a lot of fun. This next one is another 4K, which I picked up in the HMV sale. This is probably going to be my next retro movie review. Haven't seen this for decades. This came out as part of the fairly short-lived HMV science fiction steelbook classics. This is Logan's Run, starring Michael York and Jane Seymour, from 1976. Of course, this came out at a time when science fiction wasn't a big thing. And it was the year before Star Wars really, the genre exploded again. This is the story of a future society where humanity lives in a sort of dome or futuristic building. People, when they get to 30, they are submitted to the carousel, which is a sort of spinning machine that kills people and so it creates and leads them to sort of a rebirth. So basically, human lifespan is 30 years. Michael York plays one of the Sandmen who track down people who try to escape the carousel, and he discovers that perhaps the whole carousel principle isn't what it should be, and he and Jane Seymour's character, I believe it is, go on the run. Not Jane Seymour. It's not Jane Seymour, you fool. It's not Jane Seymour. It's Jenny Agutter. I do apologise. I apologise to Jenny Agutter and Jane Seymour for getting you confused. It's a good film. Again, not seen it for years, and I will rewatch this in the next week or so, and there'll be a retro video up, hopefully before the new year. That's Logan's Run. The next one is one that you've seen, of course, because I've done 2 videos on it. It's Doctor Who Season 17 on Blu-ray. I won't waste any more time talking about that because I've done an opening and a full review. Thank you for those of you who commented as well. I do appreciate that. And I also picked up, this just arrived yesterday, I think this was also in an HMV promotion. One of my favourite films, The Birds, from 1963, Alfred Hitchcock's adaptation of Daphne du Maurier's short story about nature going mad and going wild and birds attacking humans in the remote community of Bondiga Bay near San Francisco. A great film. If you've never seen it, it's a masterpiece of sort of tension and terror. Maybe a little dated in some ways, certainly visually in some ways, but Alfred Hitchcock was the man, and this is, for me, his best film. Absolutely love that film. And the final physical media disc type thingy, if you like, is this one. It's The Doctors, the Tom Baker years. This is the latest release from Real Time Pictures, who I may have mentioned before. They're re-releasing a lot of their old archive interviews with Doctor Who alumni from the classic series, repackaging them in new sets on DVD. And this one is the Tom Baker Years Behind the Scenes Volume 1. And this features in-depth interviews with producer Graham Williams, David Fisher, one of the writers, Andrew Smith, another writer, June Hudson, costume designer, who actually features on one of the special features, the behind the sofa features on the season 18 Blu-ray set. Plus Michael Wisher, who played Davros in Genesis the Daleks, Peter Miles, who played Nyder, Roy Skelton, who did Dalek voices, and other actors including Arthur Cox, Terence Denville, David Duffield, and David Weston. Presented by the voice of the Daleks himself, Nicholas Briggs. This was sent to me to review for Starbase magazine. I haven't had a chance to get stuck into it yet, so I'll do that over Christmas. It's a nice 2-disc set, runs to 5 hours, and as I've often said about these sets, that they are a fascinating document of the work of people, most of them who are sadly no longer with us. Many of the people on here aren't around anymore, unfortunately. So it's a nice way of remembering their work and it being commemorated on video. Okay, the final pickups in this media update continue my strange love-hate relationship with the world of comics. Now, as you know, I'm a big fan of Marvel, and I like superhero films. I like superhero TV as long as it's done well and engages, and I'm a big fan of Marvel. Marvel gets the edge over DC for me. And every time a Marvel production comes out, a film or a TV series, and I loved Hawkeye, incidentally, I'm always tempted to go back and try the comics again to sort of rekindle that magic. Because I read comics in the 70s, and I sort of lost interest when I got to about 18, and I sort of drifted away. But I sort of try to reconnect with them now, especially, the last couple of years with what we've gone through with COVID and various lockdowns. I have taken solace in things from the past that I really enjoyed. And so I've tried to sort of revisit the world of comics. I think it hasn't worked when I've looked at modern comics because I don't really like style of modern comics. I think they try to be, the whole graphic novel thing of comics with their adult sensibilities. I just don't think it works. And it doesn't give me what I want because I want to reconnect with my childhood and I don't want to see these things trying to be too adult. It's just my own personal perspective, of course, and just being the old man waving his fist at clouds, if you like. So I've often found that when I have tried modern comics based on properties I've seen in films and television, I'm disappointed. But I still do it. I still buy them. And in the last week, I bought 3 or 4 comic sets based on things I've seen recently. I picked this one up yesterday. It's the Amazing Spider-Man. It's from the Marvel Select range. These are collections that Marvel released to coincide with a new film or TV series. Very sensibly, with so many properties now being exploited on the screen, why shouldn't Marvel bring up these editions? And these are very nice editions. They are I don't know, 100 odd pages of some classic old comic strips. And I bought the Amazing Spider-Man one yesterday, which features an appearance by Doctor Strange. And this, I believe, is a comic series. I mean, of course, because comic numbering's all changed now. So it apparently is from the Amazing Spider-Man numbers 57 to 58. But of course, that's a relaunch sort of series. This is written by J. Michael Straczynski, who created Babylon 5. I think I've read one of his comics before, which I quite enjoyed. And this is quite an interesting story where creatures from another dimension are attacking New York. Fantastic Four, various Avengers get involved in the battle, and Doctor Strange and Spider-Man get involved. I mean, I've read the first part of this and I quite enjoyed it. The art, I think, it's not too bad. I mean, it's not the classic art in the 60s and 70s, even though apparently John Romita Sr. is involved. It doesn't really have that slickness that his classic artwork, and it does recreate those classic early comic strip panels of Spider-Man. But this looks quite readable. I mean, as I said, I read the first issue of it, if you like, last night, and I quite enjoyed it as well. We'll go back to that. Not so sure about these two, however. Now, when Hawkeye came on screen, a friend of mine on Facebook said you should read the comic book that the series is sort of vaguely based on by Matt Fraction. And I looked at it online and thought, I might pick that up in the new year. But, of course, Marvel Select beat me to it because they've issued a version of it for the UK market, My Life as a Weapon, which has elements from the series. It's got Pizza the Lucky Dog. It's got, in fact, a version of the car chase that was a highlight of episode 3 of Hawkeye. But the problem I have again is the art. I just don't find the art. It's quite stylish and stylistic, but it doesn't draw me in the way the classic art of the classic comics did. It's this attempt to be too adult that I just sort of struggle with a little bit. But I've read the first couple of these and I thought, well, this is quite good, but it's not the superhero stuff that I'm exactly looking for, which is a shame. I also bought this one. I know this came out a while ago, but still in the shop, so I thought I might as well pick it up as well because hey, I've got money to burn. It's Black Widow. It's the collection that came out to coincide with the Black Widow movie. Again, it's sort of that modernistic style of comic strip, which I'm not a big fan of. But in the back, it does have a couple of classic comics. It's got Spider-Man's encounters with Black Widow and the Avengers with Black Widow, with art by, I think it's Don Heck. Yeah, Don Heck did the art on that one, and I think the Spider-Man one has art by John Romita, and I just love that sort of something sort of superannuated realism. It looks realistic, and yet it sort of doesn't. So yeah, I mean, I bought a couple of these. I bought the Captain Marvel one. I nearly bought the Shang-Chi one, but didn't get around to it. I haven't really read them all, so you know, mid of Christmas now, I'll probably try and get through those again. This I picked up again. I think I picked this up off. No, I bought this off Amazon. I think it was about $10.99. This is supposed to be a very well-regarded run of The Mighty Thor, which is by Walter Simonson. This is part 1. I think he did a long run of Thor comics in 1980s, maybe. I'm not entirely sure when it was because I'm not a comics aficionado exactly. But this has had quite good reviews. Again, I think the art is a little more in the style which I am more comfortable with, and apparently is sort of a classic run of Thor comics, and I do quite like Thor. So yeah, I will have a look at that again over Christmas. That's called The Mighty Thor Volume 1 of the Walter Simonson run. Back in the 70s, nearly there. Back in the 70s, when Marvel made their inroads into the UK, they would release, and I think they were in fact released in America as well, treasury editions, which were large size editions of some classic comic books. And I remember having a lot of these, and I remember selling them all a few years ago. And now, of course, because of my current state of mind, and, you know, just wanting to reconnect a bit, I've been looking on eBay and I've picked some of them up quite cheaply. So I picked up 2 of these Marvel Treasury editions in the last week or so. This one came today. This is the Sensational Spider-Man. 50p. It cost me 10 quid now, including postage. This is number 14 of the Treasury editions. Came out in 1977 and includes, I think it's 4 or 5 full stories. And of course, they're the large size, so they're really nice, big, inflated size images. But it's got, I think it's got one of the first stories featuring Morbius, the living vampire, who, of course, is going to turn up in his own film from Sony later this year. And there he is, on Morbius, flying about the place. This is the classic Spider-Man stuff that I will enjoy reading, and I'm looking forward to sort of rattling through that. It's in 86 pages of, well reproduced classic comics, so happy with that. The other one I picked up was the Fabulous Fantastic Four. This is number 2 in the Treasury series. This is actually the American edition. It's got the £1.50 price tag on it. And again, this runs to 100 pages, so it's a slightly bigger edition. I think the page count did reduce after a little while. But this includes some classic Jack Kirby artwork. I'm not displaying these very well, I do apologise. The classic Jack Kirby artwork and classic early stories of the Fantastic Four, and they'd be just fun to revisit. I love that naivety of those early comics, and that's what I feel that the modern comics do miss, unfortunately, at least for me. Okay, best till last. I was thinking of doing a separate video for this. I might still do that when I've read it. I started reading it today and I love it. I'm a big fan of Gerry Anderson's UFO series, which was screened in 1971, made in 1969-70. Only one series, 26 episodes, but it's a series I can watch even now. And in fact, I watched an episode fairly recently. It's the story of a secret defense organization fighting off the attack of aliens who are coming to Earth to harvest human body parts. Nice, eh? And I just love the series. It's so slick and fast-paced. Great, terrific title sequence. Great cast, starring Ed Bishop as Ed Straker. The design of all the... It's classic Gerry Anderson. It's his first sort of live-action TV series. And in 1971, a comic was launched in the UK called Countdown, which was this very slick and glossy comic, which had lots of comic strips based on Gerry Anderson properties. It had a new Doctor Who comic strip. Doctor Who comics had always been quite childish, but this new strip was more sophisticated and reflected more the nature of John Pertwee era of Doctor Who. Countdown included a comic strip based on UFO. Now, I didn't see UFO till 1972, I think, when it arrived in my ITV network area. So I don't think I read the comic. I didn't read it because I didn't know much about the series. So I didn't read the comic. Anderson Entertainment, which is led by Jamie Anderson, the son of the late Gerry, has now collected up many of these comic strips, in fact all of the comic strips from Countdown, got the rights to them and repackaged them in volume 1 of this gorgeous hardcover 288-page set UFO comic anthology volume 1. It's a beautiful piece. So beautiful, in fact, I'll angle the camera down so I can show you it a little bit better. Hopefully you can see it's a bit better now. It's basically, it's a book which doesn't just reprint the comic strip, it puts them into some sort of context. There's an article about the history and origin of Countdown, the comic itself, reproduction of the cover of the first issue, and then an article, just to say a fairly long article, not a long article, but a few pages, and then it goes into the strips themselves. The first UFO strip was in black and white, but it really came into its own with the second strip, which was in colour with art by the legendary Jerry Haylock, who comic fans will know. Really good, exciting stories that are very, very similar to the style of the stories on television. Quite sophisticated for a children's comic. And there are pages and pages and pages of these strips, most of which I've never seen before, much less read. So I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into them. We've got profiles of the artists as well. You've got a profile there of Jerry Haylock, who did the best, as I say, did the best art. I'll show you a bit better there. There we are. It's just a terrific book. It's 288 pages of these terrific strips. What I like about this, it does go into black and white towards the end, because the strip did go to black and white after a while, which is going to make volume 2 probably a little less spectacular. Hope you've got a sort of an idea of what, I don't think I handled it very well, but it's a lovely book. It's a nice, big, thick, chunky book. This is going to keep you occupied for quite some time. I absolutely love it. As I said, to me, this is almost like the second season of UFO that we never got, because the stories are very much in the style of the TV episodes. There are certain differences. I mean, for example, Paul Foster's character, played by Michael Billington, he was a colonel in the series. For some reason, he's a major in here. And character likenesses vary, but the craft looked brilliant. And that's where the art really excels, in showing the interceptors and Skydiver and all the stuff of paraphernalia of Shadow from the series itself. And it is almost like having the second series that we never had on TV. And this is a book that was I think it was announced months ago. It was pre-ordered in October. Finally arrived today. I was a little bit concerned I might not get it in time for Christmas, because this is going to be one of my Christmas companions. The UFO comic. In fact, if you're interested in this, nip over to the Jerry Anderson store online. You can pick it up. It's, it's not cheap. It's 30 quid plus postage, but this is a good quality production. And if you're a fan of UFO, you will want to have this in your collection. Right, that's my pickups up to date. Hope this was of some interest to... I don't know why I'm talking like a Dalek. I hope this was of some interest to you. Yeah, I hope you are interested in things. I've lost it. If you've picked up anything interesting, I don't mean COVID, over the last couple of weeks, want to let me know what you've picked up. If there's anything that you saw there that you think, oh, that looks nice, tell me more. Yeah, leave a comment. That would be marvellous. Like and subscribe, leave a comment. And I will leave you for now, because I'm now going to record my Christmas message to the nation. Until I see you next time, you know what they say, keep taking the stuff.